You're not bad at English. I need you to hear that. You are not bad at English. But here's what is happening, and honestly, nobody talks about this. You are thinking in the wrong language. Every single time you open your mouth, there's this tiny little moment, a fraction of a second, where your brain goes, okay, what do I want to say? Forms the thought in your first language, then tries to translate it, then panics because the translation isn't coming fast enough, then freezes, and you think, I'm just not good at this. No, that's not it. That's not it at all. What you're experiencing is translation lag, and it's not a language problem, it's a brain wiring problem. And tonight, after midnight, in the dark, while the rest of the world is asleep, we're going to rewire it. 99 sentences. That's all this is. 99 sentences that your brain will absorb tonight and start reaching for tomorrow, not because you studied them, because you let them in. Stay with me. Because what I'm about to tell you about how your brain actually works, it's going to change the way you think about English forever. The psychology nobody explains. Okay, so here's the thing. When you were a child, 2, 3 years old, you didn't translate. You couldn't. You heard a word. You connected it directly to a thing, a feeling, a moment. Hot, not goryacho, translated into hot, just hot. The sensation and the word arriving together. That's how fluency actually works. Word connected directly to meaning. No middleman, no translation layer. But somewhere around the time we start formally learning languages in school, something goes wrong. We're taught, here is the word in English and here is what it means in your language. We build a bridge between two languages instead of building a direct road from word to world. And look, that method works fine for passing exams. It does not work for speaking, because speech is fast. Real conversation moves at something like 150 words per minute. Your translation process? It needs 2 to 3 seconds per phrase. Do the math. You're already 4 sentences behind before you've opened your mouth. The people you know who speak English fluently, the ones who just flow, they're not smarter than you. They're not more talented. At some point, consciously or unconsciously, they stopped translating. They started thinking. Tonight, we start that process for you. Story 1. The woman who forgot to translate. I want to tell you about someone. Let's call her Mia. Mia studied English for 9 years. 9 years. She could write a grammatically perfect essay. She could read a novel. She could pass any written test you put in front of her. But the moment someone spoke to her, in real life, fast, casual, natural English, she went blank. She told me, it was like my brain was a computer running 2 programs at once, and neither one could run properly. She moved to London for work, and for the first 3 months, she was, honestly, a disaster. Not because her English was bad, because she was translating everything. Every sentence she heard, she was converting. Every sentence she wanted to say, she was building from scratch in her first language, and then constructing in English word by word. She was exhausted by noon every day. Conversations left her feeling stupid and slow. She started avoiding speaking entirely, and then one evening, late, she was tired, she'd had a glass of wine, a colleague asked her something simple about the weekend, and she just answered, without thinking, naturally, no translation. What did you do this weekend? Oh, honestly, I slept until noon and watched terrible TV, and I'm not even sorry. Her colleague laughed. The conversation continued, and Mia stood there thinking, wait, what just happened? What happened was this. She was too tired to translate. Her brain, running low on fuel, took the shortcut, the direct route. Word to world, no bridge. That moment, that exhausted, unplanned glass of wine moment, changed everything. She didn't need more grammar. She didn't need more vocabulary. She needed to get out of her own way. That's what tonight is for. Block 1. Sentences 1 to 17. The language of daily life. We start simple, not because these are easy, but because daily life is where the translation habit lives most stubbornly. These are the sentences you use every day, the ones you should be reaching for without thinking. Hear them, let them land. Don't translate, just receive. 1. I'm running a bit late. Not I am delayed, not formal, just I'm running a bit late. Casual, human, real. The kind of thing you text someone, the kind of thing you say walking through the door. I'm running a bit late. 2. Let me get back to you on that. This is gold. Use this when you need time, when you don't have the answer, when you want to sound professional and calm instead of panicked. Let me get back to you on that. 3. I could really use a coffee right now. Could really use. This is how English speakers express need without sounding desperate. Not, I need coffee, which is fine, but I could really use. It's softer, more human. I could really use a coffee right now. 4. It's been one of those days. This one sentence carries an entire story. Everyone knows what one of those days means. No explanation needed, pure connection. It's been one of those days. 5. What are you up to later? Up to? What are you doing? The most casual, most common way to ask about someone's plans. If you're still saying, what are you doing tonight? Upgrade to this. What are you up to later? 6. I'm not really feeling it today. Honest, relatable, used when you don't have the energy for something, when motivation is low, when you need a day to reset. I'm not really feeling it today. 7. Honestly, I have no idea. Honestly, at the start, this is how native speakers signal that what follows is a real, unfiltered answer. Honestly, I have no idea. Vulnerable, direct, completely natural. Honestly, I have no idea. 8. That works for me. Simple agreement, confirmation, approval. You'll use this 100 times a week once it's in your mouth. That works for me. 9. I'll figure it out. Calm confidence, telling someone or yourself that the problem will be solved even if you don't know how yet. I'll figure it out. 10. Can we push this to tomorrow? Push as in reschedule, move forward in time. Professional, clear, used in meetings, messages, casual plans. Can we push this to tomorrow? 11. I'm still on the fence about it. On the fence, undecided, seeing both sides, not ready to commit. You're on the fence about something when your answer is genuinely neither yes nor no. I'm still on the fence about it. 12. That's not really my thing. Polite rejection, preference stated without apology. That's not really my thing. Clean, unoffensive, completely normal to say. That's not really my thing. 13. I'm swamped right now. Swamped, overwhelmed with work or tasks, buried, too busy to breathe. I'm swamped right now. 14. Give me a sec. Give me a second, a moment to think, to finish something, to gather myself. Shortened to a sec in real speech. Give me a sec. 15. That's fair enough. Acknowledging that something makes sense, even if you'd prefer it were different. Mature, measured, natural. That's fair enough. 16. I could take it or leave it. Indifference. Something doesn't excite you but doesn't bother you either. Neither here nor there. I could take it or leave it. I could take it or leave it. 17. I didn't really think it through. Honest admission that a decision was made without full consideration. Used in self-reflection, in apologies, in calm post-analysis. I didn't really think it through. 17 sentences. Let them sit for a moment. I'm running late. Let me get back to you. I could really use a coffee. It's been one of those days. Notice something? None of those needed translation. They just made sense. Directly, word to feeling, no bridge. That's what we're building. The psychology of the translation moment. Here's something your English teacher probably never told you. Translation doesn't just slow you down, it actually makes your English worse. Here's why. When you form a thought in your first language and then translate it, you end up with English that is grammatically structured around your first language's patterns. The sentence order, the prepositions, the way emphasis is placed, all of it is imported from the wrong source. Native English speakers don't just use different words, they use different thought structures. When an English speaker thinks, I'm hungry, they're not completing the full sentence, I am in a state of hunger. They're reaching for a chunk, a ready-made unit of meaning that their brain stores as a single item. I'm hungry is one thing, not 4 words. Your brain does this too in your first language. You don't assemble "Я хочу есть" word by word. It arrives whole. The goal of tonight is to start creating those chunks, those ready-made whole units in English. Not translate, store, retrieve, use. Every sentence in this lesson is a chunk. Not a grammar lesson, not vocabulary, a chunk. Let it in as a whole thing. Block 2, sentences 18 to 34, work, focus, and professional life. These sentences live in your professional English, in meetings, emails, calls, conversations with colleagues. The ones that separate someone who knows English from someone who uses it. 18. Can I jump in here? Politely interrupting in a meeting or conversation. Jump in, enter the conversation. Assertive but not rude. Can I jump in here? 19. Let me make sure I understand. Before you respond to something complex or unexpected, buy yourself a moment and signal that you're listening carefully. Let me make sure I understand. 20. That's a good point, actually. Actually, at the end, softens and naturalizes. You're genuinely acknowledging something you hadn't considered. That's a good point, actually. 21. I'll loop you in. Include someone in a conversation or email thread they weren't previously part of. Completely standard professional English. I'll loop you in. 22. What's the timeline on this? Asking about deadlines without sounding demanding. Clean, professional, direct. What's the timeline on this? 23. Can we take this offline? Suggesting to move a conversation outside the current meeting. Handle it separately, one-to-one. Very common in corporate environments. Can we take this offline? 24. I'll send you a quick summary. Quick here means brief, not necessarily fast. A quick summary, a short overview. I'll send you a quick summary. 25. I just wanted to follow up on this. The professional follow-up. Used in emails and calls. Polite persistence. I just wanted to follow up on this. 26. Does that make sense? Checking understanding. More natural than, do you understand, which can sound slightly condescending. Does that make sense? Puts the question on the explanation, not the listener. Does that make sense? 27. I think we're on the same page. Agreement. Mutual understanding established. I think we're on the same page. 28. That's outside my area of expertise. Honest and professional acknowledgement of limits. No shame in this. It's a sign of self-awareness. That's outside my area of expertise. 29. I'll reach out to them directly. Contact someone, usually used when you'll be making the first move. I'll reach out to them directly. 30. Let's circle back to this. Return to a topic later once more information is available or the time is better. Let's circle back to this. 31. That's not quite what I meant. Gentle correction. You're clarifying without confrontation. That's not quite what I meant. 32. I appreciate you flagging that. Thanking someone for pointing something out. Flagging. Bringing attention to an issue. I appreciate you flagging that. 33. We're still working through the details. Things aren't finalized. A process is ongoing. A polite way to say not ready yet. We're still working through the details. 34. This might be worth looking into, suggesting further research or consideration without making a firm recommendation. This might be worth looking into. Story 2. The translation trap. I know someone, let's call him Daniel, who was absolutely fluent on paper. He'd been studying English for 15 years. He had a C1 certificate. He'd read Hemingway, Fitzgerald, Orwell in the original. He could write a cover letter in English that would make a native speaker stop and read twice. But in a meeting, with 6 people, English flying around the room at conversational speed, he told me, I was always 3 thoughts behind. By the time I'd translated what someone said, formed my response in my language, translated that back into English and checked it, the conversation had moved on. And I'd just sit there, nodding, like I agreed with something I hadn't even processed yet. He was nodding to things he hadn't heard, agreeing to things he hadn't understood. Not because his English was bad, because his translation process was too slow for real life. What changed everything for him was one very simple thing. He started thinking in questions. Instead of listening, translating, processing, forming a response, he trained himself to listen in English and immediately generate one of two things: a question or a chunk. Either, "Can you say more about that?" or one of the ready-made professional phrases he'd been practicing. He stopped trying to generate perfect, original sentences on the spot. He started reaching for stored chunks. Within 2 months, his colleagues noticed a change. He seemed more confident, more present. He seemed to listen better. He was the same person, the same knowledge, the same vocabulary. He'd just removed one step from the process. Tonight, you're removing that step. Block 3. Sentences 35 to 51. Emotions, honesty, and real human speech. This is where English gets truly powerful, because emotions don't translate well. The words for feelings in one language carry specific cultural weight that the words in another language simply don't have. When you learn to feel in English, not translate your feelings into English, but actually feel them in the language itself, that's when you become truly fluent. 35. I'm genuinely touched by that. Touched, moved emotionally by someone's kindness or gesture. Genuinely intensifies the sincerity. I'm genuinely touched by that. 36. That really got to me. Something affected you emotionally, moved you, upset you, or hit you deeply. That really got to me. 37. I'm a bit all over the place right now, scattered, unfocused, emotionally or mentally fragmented. Very human, very honest. I'm a bit all over the place right now. 38. I can't put my finger on it. You feel something, but can't identify exactly what it is. I can't put my finger on it. 39. Honestly, it caught me off guard. Something surprised you when you weren't prepared for it. Honestly, it caught me off guard. 40. I feel like something's off. Intuition that something isn't right, even if you can't say what. I feel like something's off. 41. That means a lot, genuinely. Expressing that something has real significance. Genuinely, you're not just being polite. That means a lot, genuinely. 42. I don't want to make it a bigger deal than it is. Downplaying, choosing not to escalate, emotionally mature phrasing. I don't want to make it a bigger deal than it is. 43. I'm still processing it, to be honest. Acknowledging that you haven't finished digesting something emotionally or intellectually. I'm still processing it, to be honest. 44. I get where you're coming from. I understand your perspective. I see how you arrived at that position. I get where you're coming from. 45. That's not something I expected to hear. Surprise, delivered calmly, a composed response to unexpected information. That's not something I expected to hear. 46. I'm trying not to read too much into it, consciously choosing not to overthink or overinterpret something. I'm trying not to read too much into it. 47. It hit different this time. Hit different, had a different, stronger or more personal impact than before. This is very natural contemporary English. It hit different this time. 48. I don't want to come across the wrong way. You're about to say something potentially sensitive and you want to frame it carefully. I don't want to come across the wrong way. 49. I was gutted, honestly. Gutted. Deeply disappointed. British English, but universally understood and widely used. I was gutted, honestly. 50. I'm not going to lie. I was nervous. I'm not going to lie. A way of introducing an honest, possibly uncomfortable admission. I'm not going to lie. I was nervous. 51. It's weird, but I actually feel better about it now. Weird, but framing an unexpected emotional shift, used when a feeling has resolved unexpectedly. It's weird, but I actually feel better about it now. We're past halfway, 51 sentences, and here's what I want you to notice. Not a single one of those required you to do any mental gymnastics. They make sense in English, directly, immediately. That's not coincidence. That's how English actually feels when you receive it without the translation filter. Keep going. The Midnight Psychology, Identity and Language. There's something that language researchers call the cultural frame shift, and it goes like this. When multilingual people switch languages, they don't just switch words, they shift personality. Their body language changes, their sense of humor changes, the emotional weight of their words changes. Studies with bilingual people show that when answering the same question in two different languages, about family, about values, about the future, the answers are measurably different. Not because the person is lying in one language, because the person is genuinely different. You have an English self. Maybe you haven't fully met them yet. Maybe they're somewhere underneath the translation layer, waiting. The English you, the one speaking naturally, thinking directly, feeling in the language rather than through it, that person already exists. Tonight, we're waking them up. Block 4, sentences 52 to 68. Conversation, connection, and social English. These are the sentences of real, messy, warm, human conversation. The ones that happen at dinner tables and on the phone and in coffee shops and late at night. The ones that connect people. 52. So, how have you been? Like actually. Asking for the real answer, not the polite one. Genuine checking in. So, how have you been? Like actually. 53. You had to be there. Some things don't translate into words. This is the phrase for them. You had to be there. 54. I'm not sure how to explain this, but framing for a complex or counterintuitive idea gives you permission to be imperfect before you've even started. I'm not sure how to explain this, but 55. That tracks. Informal. That makes sense. That logically follows. Very common in contemporary conversation. That tracks. 56. We haven't properly caught up in ages. Properly, fully, thoroughly. Caught up, shared news and updates. In ages, a long time. We haven't properly caught up in ages. 57. I feel like I say this every time, but self-awareness about a recurring observation or habit. Warm, self-deprecating. I feel like I say this every time, but 58. No, go on. I want to hear this. Inviting someone to continue. Showing genuine interest. No, go on. I want to hear this. 59. That's kind of a lot to take in. When someone has just shared something significant and you need a moment, that's kind of a lot to take in. 60. I didn't realize it was that serious. Reacting to learning the gravity of something you'd underestimated. I didn't realize it was that serious. 61. We should do this more often. After a good conversation or time spent with someone, the natural closing thought. We should do this more often. 62. I know what you mean. I feel the exact same way. Complete resonance. You're not just understanding, you're experiencing the same thing. I know what you mean. I feel the exact same way. 63. You're being too hard on yourself. Pushing back on someone's self-criticism. Gentle but firm. You're being too hard on yourself. 64. I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I did. Pleasant surprise at your own reaction to something. I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I did. 65. Long story short. Signaling that you're giving the condensed version of a complicated story. Long story short. 66. I have mixed feelings about it. You feel two or more different things simultaneously. Ambivalent. Complex. I have mixed feelings about it. 67. It kind of snuck up on me. Something happened gradually without you noticing until it was already there. It kind of snuck up on me. 68. I mean, when you put it like that, someone's framing has shifted your perspective. You see it differently now. I mean, when you put it like that. Story 3. The Midnight Moment. I want to tell you about a specific kind of moment. Maybe you've had one already. Maybe it's coming. It's late. You're tired. You're not trying to speak English. You're just living, watching something, reading something, thinking about something, and a thought forms. A real thought. A complete, complex, feeling-laden thought. And it forms in English. Not because you constructed it in English, not because you translated it, it just arrived in English, already assembled, already whole. For some people, this happens in a dream. They dream in English and wake up slightly stunned. For some people, it happens in a conversation when they're not paying attention to themselves. For some people, it happens at midnight, listening to a lesson like this one, when the analytical brain has finally gone quiet enough to let the language in. That moment, whenever it comes for you, is not the end of the journey. It's not even the beginning. It's the proof that there was never a wall. There was just a habit. And habits, unlike walls, can change overnight. Block 5. Sentences 69 to 83, Advanced and C1 English. Now we go deeper. These are the sentences that mark the jump from B2 to C1, not because the words are harder, but because the thinking behind them is more nuanced, more layered, more native. 69. I think there's more to it than that. There's additional complexity, depth, or nuance that hasn't been addressed yet. I think there's more to it than that. 70. That's a valid concern, but acknowledging a worry before pivoting to a counterpoint. Balanced, thoughtful, sophisticated. That's a valid concern, but 71. It's more nuanced than it looks. The surface reading isn't the whole story. Things are more complex. It's more nuanced than it looks. 72. I'd push back on that slightly. Polite disagreement. Push back, resist or challenge, slightly softens it. I'd push back on that slightly. 73. In hindsight, I should have, looking back after the fact, reflection on what could have been done differently. In hindsight, I should have. 74. The implications of that are significant. What this leads to, what it means further down the line, matters. The implications of that are significant. 75. It's worth unpacking that a bit. Unpacking, examining something carefully to understand all its components. It's worth unpacking that a bit. 76. That's a bit of a double-edged sword, something that has both benefits and drawbacks simultaneously. A double-edged sword cuts both ways. That's a bit of a double-edged sword. 77. I see where you're going with this. You understand the direction of someone's argument even before they've finished making it. I see where you're going with this. 78. The way I see it, this is my perspective, my reading of the situation, the way I see it. 79. There's something to be said for that approach. Partial endorsement. The approach has merit even if it's not perfect. There's something to be said for that approach. 80. I think we need to separate those two things. Two ideas have been conflated and need to be addressed independently. I think we need to separate those two things. 81. That depends on how you define it. The answer changes based on the terms being used. A sophisticated analytical move. That depends on how you define it. 82. It's not as straightforward as it sounds. Something that appears simple actually contains complications. It's not as straightforward as it sounds. 83. Broadly speaking, used to give a general overview answer, acknowledging there are exceptions. Broadly speaking, Block 6, sentences 84 to 99, the midnight sentences. These are the last 16 sentences. I want you to receive them differently from the ones before. Don't analyze, don't even repeat in your mind. Just let them pass through you, like light through water. The brain at this hour, tired, open, receptive, will hold them in places the awake mind never could. 84. Something about tonight felt different. Something about a structural pattern for describing an undefined quality of a moment. Something about tonight felt different. 85. I've been thinking about this more than I should. Honest self-awareness about rumination. Spending too much mental energy on something. I've been thinking about this more than I should. 86. I want to get better at this. Simple, honest, committed. I want to get better at this. 87. It's the kind of thing that stays with you, an experience, a story, a phrase that lingers, that doesn't leave even when you try to move on. It's the kind of thing that stays with you. 88. There's a certain kind of quiet that only happens at this hour. A certain kind of... a structure for describing something specific but hard to name precisely. There's a certain kind of quiet that only happens at this hour. 89. I'm starting to see things differently. A shift is happening. Perspective is changing. This is growth acknowledging itself. I'm starting to see things differently. 90. I think I needed to hear that. Something has landed. A word, an idea, a piece of truth that was exactly what was missing. I think I needed to hear that. 91. It's one of those things that's hard to put into words. Some experiences resist language, in any language. This phrase honors that. It's one of those things that's hard to put into words. 92. I never thought I'd say this, but... introducing something that surprises even the speaker. A pivot, a revelation. I never thought I'd say this, but... 93. Somewhere along the way, it started to feel natural. Describing a transition that happened gradually, without a single clear moment. Somewhere along the way, it started to feel natural. 94. I'm not the same person I was when I started. Growth acknowledged, change made real. One of the most powerful sentences in any language. I'm not the same person I was when I started. 95. Things have a way of working themselves out. Patient trust in process. Not passivity, faith with foundation. Things have a way of working themselves out. 96. I didn't realize how far I'd come until I looked back. Progress is often only visible in retrospect. I didn't realize how far I'd come until I looked back. 97. I'm more ready than I think I am. The truth that exists underneath the self-doubt. I'm more ready than I think I am. 98. This is where it starts. Not tomorrow, not when you're more confident, not when the conditions are perfect. Here, now, this. This is where it starts. 99. My English is mine now. Not borrowed, not performed, not translated. Yours. Fully, completely, irreversibly yours. My English is mine now. The closing. 99 sentences, not a grammar lesson, not a vocabulary list. 99 chunks of direct, alive, human English that your brain has now heard, absorbed, and filed away in the place where real language lives. Not the translation shelf, but the direct access folder. Here's what happens next. Tomorrow, in some conversation, maybe small, maybe important, one of these sentences is going to show up, not because you reach for it, because it arrives, already whole, already ready. Let me get back to you on that. I could really use a coffee. That really got to me. I'm not the same person I was when I started. It'll happen, maybe once, maybe 3 times. And each time it does, you'll know. That's not translation, that's thinking. That's not learning English, that's being inside it. The woman who forgot to translate in a moment of tired honesty, that's where you're going. The man who stopped assembling sentences and started reaching for chunks, that's what you're becoming. You were never bad at English, you were just thinking in the wrong language. And after tonight, you've started to change that. I'm your host on English After Midnight. Subscribe if these lessons are what your evenings need, press the bell, and come back tomorrow night because we're just getting started. Good night. Think in English, dream in English, and when you wake up, you'll notice the difference.